Hey guys, the Firebird is here. It's just me. My brother couldn't be here today because he's off trying to prove why the Earth is actually flat. Something tells me that he won't be coming back for quite a long time. Anyways, these are the jokes. Hope you guys are enjoying them. So, the Age of Extinction cut content video was actually pretty well received by you guys. You all seem to like it, which I'm glad. Now, I did say I was gonna do a version of 2007 for cut content, but I kinda wanna stick with trailers for a little while longer. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about cut content from The Last Night. Now, The Last Night has a lot, and I mean a lot of cut content. So this is insane how much this movie has in terms of cut content. But much like the Age of Extinction video, in this video, I'm solely gonna be looking at the trailers, the footage, what we know was planned, what we know did happen, and what was changed. Gonna be talking about altered scenes that were never in the movie, altered dialogue, and stuff like that. We have quite a bit to talk about. So in terms of cut content, The Last Night is probably the bulkiest movie with cut content, but for this one, we'll not be taking a look at the concept art at all, just to be clear. So let's begin with dissecting this mess of a movie and see what was kept and what was cut. Now, while we all can agree that The Last Night was bad, I have to admit, The Last Night has some pretty good promotional material. The character posters, the trailers themselves, the music they released created this sense of mystery and foreboding, which was very interesting, which, had to be done in order to sell the terrible movie. So I want to start off with the character poster, something that I really liked that they did, and I hope it comes back for Rise of the Beast. In this poster for Hound, as you can see here, he's missing the little cross that he's supposed to have in his helmet. In fact, if you take a look at him, he looks less of a medic and more like kind of like how he did in Age of Extinction, but only by a little bit. Because aside from the helmet thing, Hound doesn't exactly have the look of a medic. So my guess is that was thrown in there to make him stand out a bit more, though that pretty much amounted to nothing. Another interesting one is Hot Rod here. Now, while Hot Rod looks pretty much the same as he's gonna look in the movie, what's interesting is the background. He's depicted as being part of the initial act of the film, where TRF has that small, scuffle with the Autobots. But he was never present, so maybe originally he was meant to be there before he was changed. It's just an interesting choice of background, because all of the characters in the posters have their respective backgrounds associated with them, where they appear. Hound appears in the junkyard, Optimus Prime appears on the mountain nearby where the submarine emerges, but Hot Rod here doesn't make any sense. Another one that's very interesting, and I know it's one that, kinda got changed, a lot of people get confused by this one, is Barricade's battle helmet. Much like Megatron, much like Bumblebee, and much like a lot of the other Transformers, Barricade is supposed to have his own, version of a battle mask. You're seeing it right now. This got depicted a lot, especially in the toys, and a lot of the character design, the character art. But this never made it into the movie, and in the movie itself, Barricade always has an open mouth, and we're able to see his facial features. I kinda wish this was kept in the movie, because I think it would make Barricade stand out more, make this be a little cooler. But hey, it's The Last Night. This is a very interesting cut, but the explosion that we see in the first trailer doesn't appear in the final movie. No, seriously, look at these two scenes side by side. In this one, we got multiple cuts to, seeing that the Decepticons getting blown up. In this one, we see Kate, openly run towards AC and grabs her. It's the same scene, but just shot from a different angle, and of course some of the explosions are toned down for the final release of the film. Don't know why they got rid of it, I kinda wish they would have kept it, but it's pretty interesting. This is another unfinished shot from the first trailer. We see Megatron walking. He looks very ominous here, there's actually a pretty cool shot, which kinda gets a bit ruined in the movie when you include all the other protoforms just there. I mean, it doesn't look as cool. Megatron here just walking alone, I don't know, looks so much better. It's weird, so much stuff from the trailers is much better than what we saw in the movie itself. Aleximus probably added this to his Primus cut. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what the Primus cut is, someone basically pulled a Zack Snyder and grabbed a bunch of footage from The Last Night and, made a new version of the film, but toned down a lot of the humor, changed some scenes here and there, recontextualized some things, used different dialogue and new soundtrack. It's much better now. I recommend giving it a watch if you haven't done so already. Link to it will be in the description down below and in the comments down below. This is another scene from the first trailer. We have our Transformers missing, they're not present. We're supposed to see Hound and some of the other Autobots in here, but they're not obviously present. This shot of Optimus Prime also looks very different in the movie, like the colors are different, we get to see more of the background, you know, outer space. And also something that I want to add, in the movie we hear Optimus Prime grunting in pain but his mouth never moves. Yep, TLK couldn't even get that right. But I think what's more interesting about the first trailer is this entire scene where Optimus Prime and Bumblebee have like their scuffle and everyone was like, oh my god, Optimus is evil, he has purple eyes, and you know, they get stabbed. Of course, you know, the background for this is different from what it is in the actual film. The scene of Nemesis basically, you know, manhandling Bumblebee is not present in the film itself. I don't know why this scene in particular was cut. I mean, I guess we could do without it, but you know, it's kind of a waste of CGI creating the background and having these two fight it out just for the trailer. But hey, whatever, I'm not Michael Bay, nor a movie expert. I'm just a guy in my little house making fun of my brother who's always absent and has an anime waifu. Love you.
I was just a normal kid. Before my world fell apart. Went to a normal school. Lived a normal life. Some kids used to tease me. Fight like a girl? Yeah, I fight like a girl. Don't you?
Now for the second trailer. The second trailer is the easy trailer. Isabella trailer, but I'm gonna call her, I don't care. Where she basically narrates her whole backstory, and it's like never present in the film itself. We never hear her like say these lines to anyone in particular. If anything, she's like saying this to the audience, the camera. Which, you know, maybe originally she was gonna have an extended scene with the kids, which she says at the beginning was gonna, you know, tell them all about who she is and her backstory. Or this was part of the Hollywood agenda to please a certain demographic that uses a certain platform that's very toxic, and try to coax them to watch the movie Ghostbusters style.
Are you out of your mind? You're not going anywhere with me!
The line Kate says here is also not present in the film. Instead he says, you're not pulling this kamikaze shit, which is a very interesting change. I just want to say before we go on that this trailer 2, it caused quite the uproar amongst the community, and that was when Hollywood was getting really woke in terms of their movies and stuff like that. So that probably also kind of hurt the last night. I feel like just throwing that in there. But another change, well, not a change, but footage that was never shown in the movie itself is this interesting shot of Barricade just like roaming the streets. No, seriously, this scene was never present in the movie itself. It looks like it's taking place very early in the morning. My guess is that this takes place when he's off to go see Megatron and it gets dark. That's the only place where I see this fitting in, because, you know, he has his lights on and he also has his lights on when he meets Megatron. So that's a possibility, but I'm not entirely sure. This scene of Izzy and Squeaks, you know, just watching Gremlunk eat the cruiser wasn't present in the film, because in the film she was trying to hide from Kate at this point. Also, the line that Kate says is very different than the one in the film. Luckily for us, the third trailer was much better, relatively speaking. The only thing of note here is Quintessa's voice. It was changed in the film, much like Lockdown's was in the last episode, you know, where they made Lockdown's voice more robotic in the trailers, but in the film itself it was less robotic. Well, this time it's the other way around. Quintessa sounds more normal in the trailer.
Optimus Prime, you destroyed your home.
And in the film itself she sounds more, well, omniscient, godly, I guess, that's a way to say it.
You destroyed your world, you fool.
And also, we don't see any electricity coming from Optimus's chains? I'm always confused what these are supposed to be. I'll just call them chains for simplicity's sake. The scene is one of those scenes that was changed for the better in the final cut of the film. And here we just see the human soldiers running away from, you know, the chunks of Cybertron falling from the heavens. In the film itself, we actually see Hard Rod, Bumblebee, and Hound, you know, escaping alongside with them. Which again is a nice change, because we get to see a robot cast more often.
My world to live. Yours must die.
This whole dialogue of Optimus saying, for my world to live, yours must die, it's something that wasn't spoken in the movie. In fact, this whole scene is changed for a more awkward scene where Optimus shows up. Kate's like, Optimus Senpai noticed me, and Optimus takes his staff and just leaves. Yeah, I mean, kind of like this scene a little more, just because, you know, it makes him have an actual dialogue instead of Optimus shows up, takes his staff, he's done, and he's gone, and bam, he's evil, we need to stop him, which was what happened in the film. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the most fascinating changes that happened in the trailers. Now, Optimus Prime and Megatron have their fight. Well, it's very, short-lived. We see Optimus and Megatron are fighting in this place, but keep in mind the background. This looks like the entrance to the ignition chamber. They're actually outside the ignition chamber and not inside. In the actual film itself, the background looks completely different. It doesn't look anything like we see here. Not only is like the background different, but the lighting is also different. It doesn't look like they're falling down the ignition chamber like what happens in the film. It does look like, however, that Megatron's still missing his arm. Optimus Prime here has, the purple eyes, which was probably just thrown in there to try and, fool audiences, try to trick us as to, what the whole significance behind it is. He also has the red mark. Now, interestingly enough, he's being dragged around the ground. In the final film, Optimus kind of just, falls to the ground, and they have that small bit of dialogue where Megatron's like, we were brothers once. But in here, Megatron with one arm has enough strength to drag Optimus Prime through the floor. And you can see that he's actually dragging him because you can see the sparks coming off him. Something that in the movie never happened. So it is quite possible that originally we were gonna see a scene of Optimus Prime and Nemesis having a small scuffle, but that was later repurposed for the final battle between the two of them. It's just a small theory, a small conspiracy theory. I can't say that that's true, but it's so weird that they went through all the effort to change that scene to look more like what we ended up getting in the film. This fight will probably have taken place as Cybertron is getting close to the moon, because a lot of the lighting and the color looks a lot like, what the ignition chamber looked like when they were, nearby the moon. In the movie, this scene, Optimus Prime doesn't have his mask on. It's so weird how many little changes The Last Night has in dialogue, in character looks, in backgrounds. You can just tell that this movie was very, very stitched together.
I'll swat this metal cockroach.
This little piece of dialogue from Crosshairs doesn't make it into the film. Actually, there's a bunch of different lines which I will be showing later in the video. But in the final film, he says, "What's with the C-3PO ripoff?" Which, you got some nerve, Michael Bay. I like how they call out their own original design. Like, really, this is just 3PO but with more movement. This little scene of Bumblebee fighting the Nazis, well, that wasn't in the film. Well, I mean, yes, the scene itself, but this small footage here in particular wasn't in the film. However, it's not even there, and yeah, this is one of those cut scenes. But something else that I want to mention, and unfortunately we don't have any footage of this, just an alleged claim. But there are rumors that for this scene, we were also going to see a World War II version of Ratchet be present. A Spanish YouTuber who got early access to The Last Night mentioned that he did get to see Ratchet be on this scene. But unfortunately we don't have any footage or any concept art that kind of proves his claim. It's just a rumor, not confirmed, but I think you guys might like that small rumor. For all of you hardcore Ratchet fans out there. This is another scene that never made it into the movie itself. Optimus Prime riding Dragonstorm into battle. I mean, this does happen, but we never see him enter the battlefield riding Dragonstorm. Just a small scene that was cut out, and honestly it should just have been in the movie. Any scene that has a robot character, expensive to use CGI, should be kept. Oh, in some cases, but for the most part, those scenes should be kept, and scenes with the humans should be removed. That's at least my logic, and it's how I would operate if I was in charge. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, that's still a very cool scene. Him pulling a Grimlock and just aiming his sword at the air and, telling Dragonstorm to ride into battle. Kind of like how he did with Grimlock. The guy must really like doing that.
No one will stand in my way.
The scene of Optimus saying no one standing in my way and him looking very menacingly with the purple eyes also never happened in the film. Well, it did happen, but not the right context and not exactly what went down in the actual film. Now, this is another interesting scene, and one that got used in the Primus cut of The Last Night. Optimus Prime gets stabbed by Quintessa while still having his mask on. In the film itself, he doesn't have the mask on, and he says, "Say hi to my friend, Bumblebee," but in here, he just has to, close the entire time, which honestly, I think it flows much, much better.
Forgive me.
Actually, speaking of which, something I just realized, Optimus saying "forgive me" never comes up once in The Last Night. I think the closest to it will be when he is with the other knights, and after having killed a few of them, he's like, I'm sorry guys. But even then, this line in particular never gets used in the movie. I'm pretty damn sure it doesn't, at least not that I could find. So either Optimus Prime, there was going to be more signs of him, probably fighting the whole mind control brainwashing thing from Quintessa, or he was going to actually regret his actions and be more remorseful. Maybe even try to, plead for mercy from the Guardian Knights. Who knows really, but that's very interesting. Now we're gonna talk about some more deleted scenes, most of them which come from this YouTube channel right here, which you can go and check out yourself. These are scenes that were made for the movie, but for some reason or another got cut. We got Bumblebee's "I sting like a bee" dialogue.
Sting like a bee.
As opposed to "sting like a bee" as it was seen in the final movie. Some extra scenes of the TRF being tossed around like ragdolls after being shot by Bumblebee. There is a very, and I mean very, extended chase scene between Kate and the little human drones that are, chasing him. And Michael Bay, you do know this is a Transformers movie. We wanna see Transformers, not man-made human aircraft. Which honestly kinda just pisses me off more than anything. Not cause the scene is bad, just cause this is footage, this is CGI that could have been used for Transformers characters. And honestly, it just like, really ticks me off.
Old age?
You English lady, shut it.
I'm just asking. We're just having a conversation about your sex life.
Yeah, which is...
What is this? Some sort of a map?
Yeah, I feel like me just putting that dialogue on just tells you what's going on. Bay humor, not much to talk about here.
Santos Team Leader USA, what you got?
Possible Autobot match entering London.
There are some extended scenes of the TRF catching up to Kate Yeager and the Autobot crew as they're trying to figure out where to go next. Which, admittedly, is actually kinda cool. I actually kinda did like how they recognized Bumblebee's color scheme and were like, yep, that's Bumblebee, and just went after him. Admittedly, that's actually pretty good. No complaints here, for now. There's some extended car chase scenes between Cogman and his vehicle with the TRF and the police. Which, honestly, Cogman should have just, use the vehicle to transform, since he's a headmaster and everything. It would have been much, much cooler instead of having the plain old kind of boring car chasing. Well, the chasing wasn't bad, but in comparison to the other chase scenes from previous TF movies, this one was probably the weakest. And we also see some extended shots for Hot Rod and Bumblebee. Just some very, very minor stuff. I'm surprised how much or how little gets cut for, the final cut of the film. In my opinion, there's another scene that definitely should have not been cut. But we see Megatron and Nitro Zeus swoop down and, go to like the big night ship thing. I still don't know what it's called, and honestly, does anybody really care? For those of you who are gonna correct me in the comments down below. But they show up and they, bombard Bumblebee, Optimus, and Lennox and the humans there, much like in the actual film. But the dialogue that they say there is actually much, much different from the final cut of the film.
Quintessa, the most ruthless of our gods, knew you couldn't do it. She knows I'm strong and you're weak.
I also feel that the dialogue here is a little better than that of the movie. The conversation here overall seems a whole lot shorter, but I don't know, I kinda like it a little better because it plays into the whole thing of, is Quintessa telling the truth? Is she actually a Prime? Or is she like a deceiver?
Quintessa is the great deceiver! No! She put you under a spell.
There are some more cut pieces of dialogue here where they say that, Quintessa put Optimus under a spell. Just playing into that whole, Quintessa being like a weird magician type of enemy or whatever. We also have some extra dialogue from Kate where he like screams no when Optimus gets hit out of fear that he might die. And another shot where Kate drops the sword, the talisman thing, after he saves Optimus, which it actually kind of explains why we don't see the sword anywhere else after that scene. Because after it, I don't think Kate ever uses it in the final battle, so the sword was kind of pointless, and this at least explains where it went. I never thought about that before. There's an extended shot of human choppers and the British military getting closer to the Decepticons who are about to signal the ship. I can kind of understand why this scene was cut, because it looks like Nitro is about to shoot at them and nothing kind of happens for the next few minutes. It's like the Decepticons are like waiting to be shot, so I can understand why this scene was cut. And of course, Megatron says an extra piece of dialogue that was never present in the final cut of the film.
For our world, I activate this portal. Yes. It will be powerless.
Along with some extended extra shots of the Decepticons protecting the beacon. There are some small extra shots of things falling out of the sky, just as, you know, Cybertron's falling from the sky. Nothing too, like, spectacular, but I mean, it kind of just adds to the horror of, like, this being the end of the world, which was the whole theme that The Last Night was going for, which I think executed pretty poorly. I never really got that sense. You know, obviously the world's gonna end because there's another stellar body on top of the earth, but at the same time, The Last Night kinda did a poor job at conveying that, you know? Alright, and to end it all off for today, we got the small scene where, Cade reaches for BB-8's hand, and then he uses his gun to build some more momentum out of the air. You know, getting closer to the staff, which then he uses that momentum to push her forward so she can grab the staff. It's just a little thing, but honestly, I like that small detail. Like, the Transformers movies always nail the little things, the small details. And that's one of those things that I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually kind of cool. Kind of wish it would have been kept, but I can kind of understand why they got rid of it. And the final part is when Optimus Prime, you know, goes to basically slay Quintessa. Quintessa says,
Nemesis, you traitor!
as opposed to,
You traitor!
just a small added line, which honestly I actually really like. It helps, you know, with the whole thing of the Nemesis Prime thing not being something that was just, you know, thrown out of nowhere. You know, this was something that maybe is part of Prime's past. Originally he was Nemesis Prime, but then he became Optimus. Like, who knows, like, it adds a layer of mystery, more questions to be answered. Something that The Last Night kind of failed to do and instead just created more headaches. And things that ultimately kind of meant nothing. The Last Night has a myriad of things missing, and in this video I just went over the trailers. We're not even going over some of the deleted scenes that never got animated or even worked on. This is like, you know, the top of the iceberg. When I do a follow-up video to, you know, The Last Night cut content, I might talk about some of the deleted scenes that we know were meant to be in the movie but never were, or I will either talk about the concept art, because the concept art, my god, the concept art, there's so much there. It's gonna be a 3-part video. I am not kidding. 3-part video for the concept art. There's the stuff that got cut from this movie. It's ridiculous. No wonder it failed. But hey, when Rise of the Beast drops, I'm sure we'll get more deleted stuff that never made it into the movie. You know, maybe characters, certain scenes, who knows. When the movie drops, I'll be sure to cover it. But for now, we are just gonna have to wait and see, like my good old friend David says. But yeah guys, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what scenes we have kept for the movie, which ones we have cut. I think most of them were justifiably cut, but there were a few of them that could have probably been kept. Like the early exchange between Megatron and Optimus Prime, some extra robot scenes, Optimus Prime riding Dragonstorm into battle, things like that should have been kept. But for the most part, I can kind of understand why some things were taken out. But yeah, that's it for this video guys. Hopefully you all enjoy. If you want more cut content, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you guys want to see more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe guys. Also, don't forget to check out the Primus cut and my previous Age of Extinction deleted content video. Thanks, I love you. I didn't mean it literally. Anyways guys, before we go, shout out to our amazing Patreons: Xavier the God, Stitch Productions, Scrub Lordo, Allspark Studios, Epic Nin, Lord Racer, and Transformers Gears and Brawn. That's quite a long name. And an even bigger shout out to our even bigger Patreons: Gerald the Great, who donated $100, and X23, who donated an amount of money. I'll leave you guys to figure out how much. Thank you guys for supporting me, it's much appreciated. And if you guys want to become a patron yourselves, all you gotta do is donate to my Patreon. By donating to my Patreon, you get quite a few rewards. You get a free shout out to your YouTube channel and a link to it in the description down below. You can request your own videos, you get to see videos early, you can request some artwork too if you donate high enough, or you can collab with me in some of my videos or your videos, vice versa. Scrub Lord. Thank you guys for donating, it's much appreciated. Go check out their channels, link to that is gonna be in the description down below, and other social media in some cases. So, you know, feel free to donate, but remember that this is entirely optional because freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Anyways, thank you guys for donating, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.